Real estate has been the claim to fame for many, creating many multimillionaires. But I've seen firsthand how quickly it turns into a nightmare for others. This happened to a client of mine. Let's call him David. After one strategic move to sell everything, I was able to help David 10x his income. But when he first came to me, he was stressed, burned out, and felt like real estate wasn't the answer he'd been looking for, because after years of trying to manage his investment properties and his career as an engineer, his investments were giving him a bigger headache than the ROI they created. If you don't know me, my name is Shannon Robnett, and I've spent the past 25 years investing and optimizing my cash flow, and I've learned how to get the most out of it. It's now my goal to share this knowledge and guidance with other investors to help them double their buying power and their balance sheets even faster than I did. This video is going to do that for you by breaking down how my client David managed to sell off over 100 properties in 7 different states and then 10x his income while returning mountains of time. Look, on paper, it looked really good. He was thriving. He went to college. He got a degree in engineering. He had a high income and had invested in over 100 properties over the last 7 years. I mean, is there anything wrong with this? But this is how most people think, and this is why so many people end up in the same situation that David was. They have funds, and they are eager to invest them and make the right moves with their money. After a few properties, they realize how slow their growth is, and they fall into the trap of thinking more properties means more growth. So let me set the scene for you. David had it all going for him, right? He was acquiring 1 or 2 properties a month at this point because he was rolling his cash flow back in. But he was buying turnkey properties. So he was in tax efficient states. He was in high growth states. He was buying assets. All of these things seemed to check the boxes of doing it right. But David found himself with more problems. He had 7 different tax jurisdictions. He was preparing tax statements or tax filings in those 7 states. He had 4 different property management companies. This was a nightmare because everybody's P&L sheet was just a little different. Everybody's monthly report wasn't the same, and he had to sift through all of that. Then when it came time to verifying, I did say he was an engineer, right? That all the taxes were paid, that all of the tenants had paid, all of this kind of stuff that he was personally going through to double check the property management company, he was exhausted. He still had a full-time job that was requiring him to work 50 to 60 hours a week. And on top of that, he was putting in another 10 to 15 hours a week, going through all these statements, checking to verify all these properties. And he had amassed a very tidy sum of money. He had somewhere between 10 and 20% equity in each one of these properties, depending on how long he'd owned them. But how was he ever going to harvest all of that and get that to him without paying taxes? See, we've all heard of a 1031, and so in David's mind, he was creating several problems with doing this. One was he was going to have to list all of these properties. He was going to have to find out what fair market value was, and then he was going to have to sell them. But then he was creating a tax problem unless he did a 1031 exchange. Well, if he did a 1031 exchange, how fast could he find his replacement properties, and how was he going to upgrade his investment if all he was getting was $30,000 to $60,000 every time he sold? So you can see, by going down the path of single-family rentals and creating more and more of these, he had in fact found himself in a corner that left him with more problems than solutions. This is when David and I began talking. David was able to see the flaw in his strategy, and after showing him there was another approach, he literally sold everything, and he reinvested the funds in just one asset. Now he makes 10 times more money than he had in his single-family homes, and he has so much more time back. Can you imagine making 10 times more money with 99 less problems? Let me tell you how we did it. So here was the thing. David had put money down on each property. Let's just say it was a $300,000 home. He had put 20% down. He had now made between $30,000 and $60,000 on that money, but he had access to none of it. So David really had $100,000 plus or minus trapped in every single one of these assets. With 100 of those, he had about $10 million, but he had it spread out over 100 different piggy banks. So how did we do this? It was really going back to the tax code. And the tax code said that we could use the tenants in common strategy and continue to reinvest in an asset that he already owned. We ran it past his accountant. We verified that you could continue to buy shares in a tenants in common because you were acquiring more shares in that tenants in common. See, when you look at it, you're able to consolidate. So what David was able to do was he was not only able to redeploy his original capital, that 60 grand, he was also able to redeploy that $30,000 to $60,000 of equity that he had that he wasn't calculating a return on. See, this is why every 5 to 10 years, a large real estate company will sell that asset or refinance that asset because they want to get access to that equity and get that equity working for them. So when we did that, we literally took David's ROI to include all of the money that was sitting on the sidelines. And when we did that, we were able to pair that with good debt and create a huge revenue stream for him. And in doing all of those things, we simplified it. Now David is reading one report. He's dealing with one property management company. He is now only thinking about one asset. These three things allow David to harvest back all of that time to make sure that he was now in the best situation for enjoying what he had worked so hard for. My guess is that David will soon not be working as an engineer anymore because his goal is to really go to the next step and own an asset all by himself and move forward in the development of additional assets that specialize in meeting the need of the field he came from. So through this strategy, David was able to take the steps that he learned, move them forward to the point that he reached a roadblock, work with somebody that had the keys to get him over that hurdle that will then get him to his end goal, his dream of being the developer of a certain type of industrial real estate that he has so much knowledge in. So David's story is a perfect example how less can actually be more. And by focusing your energy and money on a single high-quality asset, you'll be able to achieve greater returns with far less stress. But it's amazing how many people just don't do that. But it didn't just end with multiplying his income. That one strategic move that he made set the stage for an entirely new chapter of his life and more opportunities. Was simplified, it was more profitable, and now he has the ability to tap into higher return investments that were previously out of his reach. See, the goal for each of these is to show you what life can look like for you if you use the same strategy that David did. You change your perspective. But it all leads back to the reason that you're doing it, the reason that David made the move. See, we're showing you what will happen if you follow the guidance and advice of an intelligent investor. Now, this is not about who David is today. We are showing the theoretical possibilities that David's future can hold for him because of the strategic niche he made for himself and the steps he took. And by simplifying his portfolio, he really freed up his time and his resources to really take him in the direction that he was going to feel true fulfillment. So what new doors and opportunities are open for you? What strategic moves can you make to change your trajectory? And how can you have a larger, more profitable portfolio of assets based on better management? And how can that actually simplify your life? So David's in a new position now that allows him to strategically scale his new investments. And he's able to be involved in higher level investments that provide more harmony in his life and allow him to be in alignment with the goals that he wants and take advantage of the new position he finds himself in. I also want to point out that he's in a better financial position and has more security and stability to go with this time. So the next steps for David are to start really spending that time he was spending on his old portfolio, looking at the possibilities to build out the particular asset that he finds to be really fulfilling. So in doing that, he now has time freedom. He's able to dedicate toward that. And as he finds opportunities, I know for a fact, David and I will be talking more about how to utilize my expertise to help him get to that next step of becoming a developer. Someone that is building single assets that have specific purposes with high yields, all based on a dream that he's had for years. As you guys can see, when you get to this place of time freedom and financial freedom, the doors to your future open wide and allow you to chase what you've always had in your heart to complete. So now that you've seen the transformation that David had, and you've seen the playbook that I walked him through to become a more intelligent investor, wouldn't you like to do that to your portfolio, to the assets that you have? Check out this other video that I've created that is really kind of our manifesto here at The Intelligent Investor that shows who we are, why we do it, and what we can help you become through our framework that shows you how to simplify your life, get higher level returns, and return more time freedom to you and your family, so that with more time freedom, you're able to chase the goals and dreams that are on your heart in your life to create, to leave you with the sense of satisfaction of having truly accomplished something at the end of time.